You flinch when you read him. Do you go to women? Don't forget the whip. The words cut. They sting. They hang in the air like a cruel joke or a challenge you can't ignore. You want to dismiss him, arrogant, angry, antiquated, and yet you stay. You keep reading. Why? Because something in Nietzsche refuses to sit still. He provokes. He offends. He contradicts. But he also cracks something open, something deeper than opinion, something more ancient than morality. Nietzsche talks of woman not as a person, but as a symbol, a force, a battlefield. Sometimes she is deception. Sometimes she is power. Sometimes she is the mirror in which man sees his own truth, or his failure to find it. His pages are littered with paradoxes. He claims women are cunning, then praises them for being wise. He scorns emancipation, but warns of the danger in repressing what we do not understand. One line is brutal, the next, bizarrely reverent. So what are we to make of this mess? Was Nietzsche a misogynist, misunderstood genius, or something stranger still? Maybe the better question is this. What happens when we stop asking what Nietzsche thought of women, and instead ask what he was trying to uncover by writing about them at all? That's where the real fire starts. Read Nietzsche long enough, and the ground beneath you begins to shake. Not because he hands you answers, but because he poisons the comfort of certainty. When Nietzsche speaks of women, he doesn't whisper. He throws punches, and sometimes he misses. Or does he? In Human, All Too Human, he writes, when a woman has scholarly inclinations, there is usually something wrong with her sexuality. A statement that burns with dismissiveness, but just pages later he claims, the best woman is better than the best man. You stare at the page. What is he doing? This isn't the clarity of a systematic thinker. It's more like watching a storm argue with itself. In The Gay Science, Nietzsche condemns the hypocrisy of a society that demands purity from women before marriage and availability after it. He sees the trap, exposes it, scorns it. You think, maybe he sees more than he lets on. But then comes Beyond Good and Evil, where women are described as not even shallow and praised for their gift of deception. Again, you feel that punch to the chest. Did he mean it? Is he mocking you? Or is he mocking the voice he's channeling, the patriarchal values of his time? And then there's the infamous whip, a line in Thus Spoke Zarathustra that's become Nietzsche's scarlet letter. Do you go to women? Don't forget the whip. It's spoken not by Nietzsche, not even by Zarathustra, but by an old woman, a fictional one, in a parable. What do you do with that? Is it satire? Is it bitter memory, a metaphor, a trap? Some scholars insist that Nietzsche uses woman not to describe actual women, but to symbolize forces, chaos, appearance, the body, nature, otherness. In this light, the contradictions don't cancel each other out. They are the message. They reveal the tension in how men have constructed woman to serve their metaphysical desires. Other scholars, especially feminist critics, don't let him off so easily. They argue that no matter how poetic or symbolic, his words still wound. They echo, they influence, they linger. And in those echoes, misogyny still lives. But what if Nietzsche wanted you to feel this discomfort? What if the contradiction was his point? To show how gender, like morality, is a mask, a performance, a role learned so deeply that even the actors forget it's a script. Nietzsche doesn't offer clarity. He offers a mirror, cracked, angled, unfinished. And in that mirror, we're forced to confront the image of woman not as she is, but as she has been imagined, by men, by society, by myth, and maybe by you. It would be easy to discard Nietzsche. Easier still to quote the cruelest lines, stack them like evidence, and declare the case closed. But philosophy doesn't grow in the soil of easy judgments. It demands more. It asks us not just what was said, but why, and how it continues to echo. Some feminists have turned away from Nietzsche, branding him irredeemable. His words, after all, are heavy. They dismiss, reduce, provoke. They sound like the voice of an old world that refused to see women as fully human. But others didn't turn away. They turned toward the fire and found something unexpected within it. Frances Nesbit Oppel, for instance, doesn't excuse Nietzsche. She doesn't sanitize him. Instead, she uncovers something deeper. A philosopher waging war not against women, but against duality itself. Man and woman, good and evil, spirit and body. These binaries, she suggests, are the true targets of Nietzsche's hammer. And when he strikes the gender divide, it may not be because he believes in it, but because he wants to reveal its absurdity. Nietzsche's most aggressive lines about women, then, might be read as masks, rhetorical provocations meant to show how culture itself manufactures meaning and hierarchy. He turns the mirror not just on women, but on how men speak of women, on the entire scaffolding of patriarchy disguised as philosophy. Lou Salome knew this. A brilliant thinker in her own right, and someone Nietzsche admired, feared, and perhaps never understood. She embodied the paradox he wrestled with. Woman not as ideal, not as threat, but as thinker, free spirit, challenger. And then there's Susan Perillo, who argues that Nietzsche wasn't rejecting women's emancipation, only warning them. Warning that to become free by becoming like men might simply be another form of captivity. That in chasing masculine values, women might lose something essential, something not yet named. What emerges is a Nietzsche who wasn't at war with women, but with what the world has done to the concept of woman. And here, feminist theory finds strange allies in his work. Nietzsche's rejection of universal truth, his claim that knowledge is shaped by perspective, these ideas become tools for dismantling patriarchal narratives. His criticism of truth as a woman who must be seduced may be offensive, or it may be an exposé of how even truth itself has been gendered, possessed, objectified. Feminist thinkers have taken his hammers and forged new tools, deconstructing essentialism, challenging objectivity, questioning the binary itself. In this strange marriage of critique and reinterpretation, Nietzsche becomes both problem and possibility. A philosopher who failed to transcend the prejudices of his time, but who accidentally handed us the tools to do it ourselves. So the question shifts again. Not just was Nietzsche right about women, but can Nietzsche help us be more right about gender today? In Nietzsche's world, fixed identities are the greatest lie. You are not your gender, your name, your inherited beliefs. You are the struggle to overcome what the world has called you. At the center of Nietzsche's thought is the figure of the Übermensch, often mistranslated as Superman, but more truly, the overcoming human. A being who creates values instead of obeying them. Who laughs at old truths, not with cruelty, but with freedom. But what does this figure have to do with women, or men, or gender at all? To answer that, we must first understand Nietzsche's deepest war. Not against women, but against essence. He rejected the idea that there is a single, fixed human nature, and even more so that we should obey the roles handed down by culture, religion, or biology. Gender, for Nietzsche, was part of that machinery. A set of masks. A performance that had been repeated so often it was mistaken for truth. In Human, All Too Human, he observes that girls are trained to be charming and manipulative, not by nature but by instruction, passed from mother to daughter like a cursed inheritance. Even their cunning, he suggests, is a learned defense, not an innate flaw. In that moment, Nietzsche isn't condemning women. He's condemning the play they were forced to act in, and the audience that demanded it. The Übermensch, then, is the one who steps off the stage entirely. Not a man in armor, not a woman in chains, but a being who reclaims authorship over the self, who refuses to be just one thing, who holds masculine and feminine impulses not as opposites but as colors on a palette, used, combined, transcended. Frances Nesbitt Oppel takes this further. She sees Nietzsche's philosophy as a call to break the gender barrier altogether, to love ourselves beyond categories, to see eros not as domination but as creativity. The Übermensch is not hyper-masculine, it is post-gender, free from scripts, free to be fully human. And yet, this future vision doesn't absolve the past. Nietzsche was still a man of his time. He still spoke in shadows. He still hurt with his words, even if he meant to heal. But perhaps that's the gift he didn't intend to give. A mirror that cracks open, showing both the prejudice and the possibility. So when we read him, we don't just read a 19th century philosopher. We read our own discomfort. We read the ruins of binary thought. We read the strange invitation to become something new. Not man, not woman, but creator. Nietzsche never gave us a doctrine. He gave us a battlefield. a place where words collide, where meaning shifts, where the reader is forced to become a thinker, not a believer. When it comes to women, Nietzsche was not consistent. He was not kind, and he was not, by any modern standard, fair. His writings bruise, they provoke. They ignite outrage, confusion, and strange moments of insight that feel almost too raw to name. And yet, within the contradictions, there's movement. A deep skepticism toward fixed roles, a rebellion against cultural masks, a strange, unfinished hope that humans might one day live beyond the lines they've drawn around themselves. So, was Nietzsche right about women? No, and yes, and not quite. He was right that gender is a cultural performance. He was right that roles, once internalized, become prisons. He was right that the world uses beautiful language to justify ugly hierarchies. But he was wrong. Deeply, undeniably wrong, in the moments he reduced women to caricatures, denied their suffering, or echoed the very systems he sought to destroy. To read Nietzsche well is not to worship him, but to wrestle with him. Take what opens you, discard what closes you. Let his contradictions sharpen your own clarity. Let his failures teach you how to think more freely. In the end, Nietzsche doesn't show us the truth about women. He shows us the ruins of the lies we've built about them, and the painful, necessary path beyond them. If this stirred something in you, confusion, anger, clarity, or even a question you can't yet name, that's where philosophy begins. On Intuitra, we don't chase answers. We challenge the questions. Subscribe if you're ready to think differently. Not just about Nietzsche, but about everything you thought was certain.